Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for joining us. Here's what's making news right now.
We don't want it! We don't want it! We don't want it!
It's a bit disappointing. I mean, people in Amherstburg, if you are out of work and if you need to find work, this was a valuable resource located right within our community.
New Beginnings is launching a sober living student residence for students in post-secondary school. So there's 13 resident units here.
We begin tonight with news about job cuts at Ford. The company is cutting 3,000 positions across the company, including jobs in Canada. Employees were sent a letter earlier today announcing that 2,000 full-time salaried workers would be let go. 1,000 contract workers are also losing their jobs. Ford says the cuts are coming as it attempts to lower costs and transition to electric vehicles. Now, the majority of these cuts will take place in the United States and India. 120 jobs will be cut in Canada. The head of the local union did not have additional details today, but we do know they will not impact union jobs.
Hey, you're here to see me.
Protesters crashed a federal announcement in Tecumseh today. Many shouted at Windsor-Tecumseh MP Irek Kusmierczyk about COVID-19. Some were heard shouting about a, quote, scamdemic. Others criticized government spending. It lasted nearly 30 minutes before the event went indoors.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We're going to have to cut this short because I'm sorry.
Well, you know, all Canadians have a right to protest peacefully and to have their say. We want to respect that, but we are also undeterred. Our job number one is to make sure that we're protecting the health and safety of Canadians, all Canadians, and the measures that we enacted during COVID did just that.
Funding of an isolation center for migrant workers. Living conditions on farms are often cramped with multiple people in one unit. The site is a hotel that allows workers exposed or infected with COVID-19 to isolate safely. Since the pandemic started, the federal government has spent millions of dollars to operate the site. Politicians say they're working on a more permanent solution, saying the issue isn't going away anytime soon.
We also understand it's not a sustainable system, and so we're working at creating some more stable and long-term, because COVID's here for a long time. We don't know when the end of it is going to come and what variants are coming and so forth, but working hand in glove with our EMS and local hospitals and so forth, we need to find a new permanent type system. I'm not quite ready to elaborate in terms of what that is.
Now to Canada's struggling healthcare system. That was the main topic at a meeting in Moncton today with Premier Doug Ford and other provincial leaders, along with the federal government. As Talia Ricci reports, the leaders talked a lot about the desperate need for solutions, but in the end, nothing new was presented.
The status quo is not working, folks.
Doug Ford, alongside the other leaders, acknowledged the challenges plaguing Canada's healthcare system. But when it comes to solutions, they're asking for help.
We look forward to having a collaborative relationship with the federal government. This is a Team Canada approach that we need to take. We need to be creative. We need to come up with ideas from the sector, not just us sitting around the table.
Ford says they're hoping some of those ideas come from doctors and hospital CEOs.
Close to 40 years, I have never seen anything of this magnitude, this severity on a national basis in my entire career.
Some emergency rooms have been forced to close for days at a time due to staff shortages, including in Perth, Ontario.
We need to make maximal efforts to retain the emergency nurses that we currently have. The nurses that left Perth Emerge over the last 6 months, let's say, they didn't disappear into nothingness. They found other jobs with better hours, better pay, more respect.
The premiers said reducing barriers for internationally trained workers was discussed in their meeting.
ERs closing.
The head of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario says she's relieved the nursing shortage is gaining national attention.
When nurses start to exit the profession from their regular employment, the system crumbles. And that's why you have ERs closing.
The provincial leaders didn't share any details on other solutions being explored or specify how people in the sector can share their ideas. Healthcare workers are warning that the situation is urgent, as it's expected that the system will be under even more pressure in the fall.
There's a general consensus amongst emergency physicians that things are going to go from bad to worse because of, as you say, ongoing sort of seasonal flu issues in addition to COVID.
And it's their patients that are top of mind as they continue waiting for improvements. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Windsor West NDP MPP Lisa Gretzky says the changes announced by Ford's government last week will make the healthcare crisis worse. And she joins me now for more on this, so thank you for being here. Let's start with your take on the changes. What specifically about this plan from the government makes things worse in your opinion?
Well, so what this Bill 7 does is gives the hospital administration the ability to move patients out of hospital into long-term care homes that a patient or their designated caregiver, their substitute decision maker, has not given consent for them to be moved to. And it essentially, aside from how scary it is that they're talking about being able to move people without their consent, really what this does is it opens up furniture. People who are deemed to be essential level of care patients often are not seen by doctors or nurses in hospital. It's PSWs that pop in and check on them. And so this bill gives no additional actual frontline staffing, whether that's doctors or nurses, to take care of the patients that are in need. Its goal is only to move people out of hospital into long-term care, could be many, many hundreds of kilometers away from their home community, in order to free up a bed that isn't staffed and funded anyways.
Now, we've heard a lot about staffing being a key issue, and we also know that Windsor has one of the longest waits to see an emergency room doctor in Ontario. But we've also heard from the hospital CEO of Windsor Regional Hospital, David Mouget. He says that it's not a staffing issue. He says that it's actually a patient flow problem. And he says that there are patients who are in acute care beds who are clinically cleared to move to long-term care homes, but they're not leaving. So I'm just wondering, how would the NDP address that problem?
I think what we need to be doing is ensuring that our healthcare system is funded appropriately, that we do have all of the frontline staff that we need. And one of the first steps would be the government repealing Bill 124, which is a direct attack on our frontline nurses and other healthcare workers. But funding the beds, and again, I go back to the fact that these ALC patients are patients who are either awaiting going home with the support of home care, and we don't have the home care workers, the PSWs, to provide that care. So these patients are staying in hospital, or they're waiting to go into an appropriate long-term care home, one where they can address the needs of the patient, appropriately address the needs of the patient, but also for them to be going into homes in their community where they're essential caregivers, their family can access them without having to travel 2-3+ hours. So yes, it can be a flow problem, but it is also a staffing problem when you look at our home care sector and our long-term care sector and why people are not being able to move out of hospital and get that hands-on care that they need, whether that's at home or whether that's in long-term care.
Thanks so much for this. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Katarina.
Lisa Gretzky is the NDP MPP for Windsor West. Amherstburg is losing its employment center run by St. Clair College. It's closing at the end of the month. It's funded by the province, which gave the college permission not to renew the lease. But the decision has angered one of the town's councillors, who is now calling on the province to keep the center open. Dale Molnar has more.
This center helps match people who need work with employers who need workers. St. Clair College and the landlord, Lou McHale, offer differing stories on why the center is closing. The college says it didn't want to share space with another tenant, which McHale was suggesting. McHale says he only offered that as a way to help the office stay open.
They had someone for the space, to lease the space. They offered even for us to share the space with someone. And with employment offices, you really don't want to share space. So what we did is we approached the ministry to say, could we get out of the lease in August? So that's what we did.
The college plans to offer the services out of their employment center here at the Roundhouse Center in Windsor, but Amherstburg Councillor Donald MacArthur says that's not good enough.
This region lost 600 jobs last month. Our jobless rate increased 1 full percentage point. So not everybody's working. These are tough times for people. We need to preserve as many jobs as we can, especially jobs in Amherstburg.
The employment center employs 6 people who will transfer to the Windsor office. Any clients who can't attend in person can call or communicate on video chat. But MacArthur says they need to be helped in person and shouldn't have to go to Windsor for it.
The other thing, these people who work there now, they work in Amherstburg. They walk out, they shop in Amherstburg. On their way home, they get gas and they go to stores in Amherstburg. So I don't want to see those jobs pulled out of town, and I don't want to see Amherstburg residents looking for jobs having to leave town either.
MacArthur has contacted Essex MPP Anthony Liardi and the minister responsible for the employment center funding, Monty McNaughton, to keep the office open. St. Clair will not be providing the employment services after next March. CBC has asked the province if the next agency that runs the center will reopen the office or if another agency can be found sooner. A spokesperson says they are working on providing answers. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Amherstburg.
We are now officially in campaign mode. Politicians will be asking for your vote over the next 2 months in the municipal election, but some won't need it because no one decided to run against them, so they're being acclaimed. Mayor Gary McNamara has been running unopposed in Tecumseh. So has Joe Bichetti in the deputy mayor race. Brian Houston is the lone candidate for Ward 4. In Essex, Ward 2 has only one person on the ballot this year. That's Kim Verbeek. And in LaSalle, a new mayor, Crystal Malash, putting her name forward with no opposition. And Micah Pata will be acclaimed as deputy mayor. To find out who is running in your area, you can head to cbc.ca/Windsor. To international news now. The daughter of a prominent Putin supporter was killed in Moscow in a brazen car bombing on Saturday. The Kremlin has been quick to lay the blame on a Ukrainian national who allegedly fled to Estonia. But Moscow observers see propaganda behind the investigation as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters its 6th month. CBC's Chris Brown reports.
This is the face of a killer, or so says Russia's secret police, the FSB, but their story has a lot of holes. It claims the video shows a Ukrainian woman, Natalia Vovk, entering the building where Daria Dugina lived to spy on her. Dugina, who was 29, was killed after a bomb was remotely detonated under her car Saturday night near Moscow, as her father Alexander, who might have been the real target, watched. The FSB claims that Vovk was working for Ukraine's secret police. It released other video clips purportedly showing her driving her Mini Cooper into Russia and then leaving Sunday, the day after the blast, crossing into Estonia with her 12-year-old daughter.
When I see Western media, I ask myself how the people could lie in such a way.
Alexander Dugin was a fierce Russian nationalist who long advocated for war with Ukraine. His daughter was a pundit in her own right, but of late, neither had really been central figures in Russia's war in Ukraine. This Canadian expert suspects the FSB is blaming Ukraine to cover its own tracks.
The goal of the FSB is to provoke outrage within members of Russian society or the Russian public, to distract away from some of the problems that are happening on the military front.
But having a Ukrainian woman cross the border into heavily protected Moscow, plant a bomb, and then leave with her daughter, that doesn't look too good for the FSB, does it?
This is not looking good for the Putin regime, even if this is a strategy intended to stoke outrage of the sort that I just mentioned.
The Kremlin released a statement calling Dugina's murder a despicable crime, but Ukrainian officials dismissed that. On the battlefield, Ukraine's military is now regularly striking targets deep behind Russian front lines, disrupting supplies and logistics, and perhaps also creating infighting within Russia's leadership. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Back to local news now. The college and university experience can be triggering for students trying to live a sober lifestyle. Starting in the fall, New Beginnings, a youth-focused organization, is opening up a sober living residence in the city for 13 students. It's believed to be the first of its kind in Canada. CBC Windsor went for a tour of the new facility.
So welcome to the New Beginnings Sober Living Student Residence. So there's 13 resident units here, catered to students who are either in recovery or students who are choosing a sober lifestyle for a variety of reasons. We have a ton of existing programs and services that we're offering in kind with their placement here. So clinical support, social work supports for mental health concerns. We have specialized counselors for substance use disorders. So there's going to be a lot of tailored, individualized kind of programming and case management for students who are struggling with that. We have weekly house meetings, peer-led meetings. There's life skills groups. There are we have youth outreach workers that can help them kind of navigate community services. We have an international welcome program. So for students who are coming to Canada as international students, this is a shared common room. So TV, foosball table, ping pong table, they can hang out together. We couldn't find anything like it, not just in the city, but in Ontario and even throughout Canada. Sober living residences are quite common and popular in the USA and internationally, but we couldn't find anything in Canada. We connected with the University of Windsor Student Recovery Center early on in our research of program needs and what was available for students.
Personally, being involved in these programs, I truly, I don't exaggerate when I say I truly think it helped save my life. I had been a student at the University of Windsor 10 years ago and ended up dropping out due to being in active addiction and asking for help at that time, and there was nothing available.
So this is available to them, 24/7 while they're here. It's a great outlet to come and, work out, engage with each other in positive activity and, get some exercise and maintain that, healthy, wellness, vibe that we're going for here. Students in recovery, especially, the university college campuses can be huge triggers for substance use, for experimentation, for parties. So, that's a big part, is offering a really safe and supportive environment where sober living can still be fun and the focus can be on, enjoyable experiences with like-minded peers.
Students do need to pay rent to use the facilities, and that ranges from about $1,100 to $1,300 per month, depending on the room. And anyone can attend an open house this Wednesday from 11 to 3 to check out the new residence on Highland Avenue, just past Erie Street. Dropped on Droulard made its return to Ford City over the weekend through rain and shine. And many of us dropped in. As you can see, there was plenty of food, there were drinks, local vendors, live music as well. It was just so great to see the community out and about as well. We had a bit of rain midway throughout the day, but it did not chase the crowds away. And I was there, and it also gave me a chance to try out the tiny art vending machine, as you can see there, and that lives at the Bunch Shop in Fort City. And we've told you about that before. Neat to try it out myself. Dahlia Ashley will be here right after the break. She'll tell us what the weather will be like in the week ahead. Stay with us. A wet weekend ended in a grand finale last night. Wowzers. Some big booms as we headed to bed last night, capping off a downpour for parts of Windsor on Sunday. And these lightning strikes were caught in the south side of the city overnight. And this is a good time to bring in Dahlia Ashry because it kind of feels like we're still feeling the remnants of that, still looking quite gloomy. So what do we have to deal with, Dahlia?
That's right, Katerina. I mean, there was a downpour of rain yesterday all across southwestern Ontario and even across the GTA. I mean, I was coming in from London and I was caught in that storm, but it will get better tonight. It will clear up all that gloominess that you're experiencing today. There is some brightness at the end of the tunnel, some light there that we can expect, and those muggy conditions, though, will stick around. The normal high this time of year is 26 degrees, and we are at 26, and the normal low, 15. We're sitting above that at 19 degrees today. The current temperature in Windsor, 24 degrees currently, and Sarnia, 23. And then you factor in that humidex, and it cranks up those conditions, and it feels more like 32 degrees in Windsor, and Sarnia 31, and then the cooler spot in the region, Kitchener at 27 degrees. Now, are we expecting any rain tonight? And the answer to that is no. There might be a little bit of rain, scattered showers there near Leamington, but as you head into Tuesday on your way to work, it's mostly just some cloud coverage that we can be expecting, and then that will clear up throughout the day, and some sunshine is on its way, and a little bit of scattered showers there around 3 o'clock, but for the most part, clear skies, a little bit of fogginess there, but you just swap in that umbrella for your sunglasses and you enjoy your day tomorrow and stay hydrated. Windsor 17 degrees tonight, Leamington 18, and Sarnia 17 degrees. Now, what to expect over the next few days, what we're seeing here is a trend of mostly dry conditions. That sunshine is sticking around, and then we also have that humidity that we've been talking about over the past few days, and that will be expected over the next several days as well. As we can see here, temperatures will be feeling more like 34 degrees. That's on Thursday, and then you get a little bit of those scattered showers again on Friday, but for the most part, it's sunny conditions, sunglasses, then you swap in maybe for your umbrella on Friday, then back to those dry conditions on Saturday. So if you're over that rain, don't worry, we have some dry conditions in sight, but the humidity is sticking around, Katerina.
Yeah, and for those who want to complain about the heat, we have to remember that August is almost over. I hate saying it out loud, but we got to really soak this up for as long as we can.
That's right. You know, enjoy your cool, refreshing drinks, because then later we're back to those pumpkin spice lattes, right? So,
which is also exciting to
it's
think about.
delicious, by the way.
There
I
you
love
go.
them. But right now we're staying cool. Thanks, Katerina.
For that, Dahlia.
Thanks.
When we come back, geysers, a cool discovery in Japan, is also a headache for some. Stay with us. Welcome back. One of the most recognizable faces of the pandemic is retiring. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's going to step down by the end of the year. Fauci has advised 7 presidents and spent more than half a century at the National Institute of Health. He's led the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for 38 years. He oversaw the U.S. response to a number of threats, including HIV/AIDS. Fauci's tenure has not always been easy. His position on COVID-19 contrasted with that of then-President Donald Trump. Some conservatives vilified him for his promotion of vaccines and masks. Fauci says he plans to spend more time traveling and writing. There has been a small step forward for LGBTQ rights in Singapore. The government has repealed a colonial-era law that banned sex between men.
Section 3.
The Prime Minister made the announcement this morning. LGBTQ rights groups say they are relieved by the change, but the government also announced there will be an amendment to the Constitution to ensure same-sex marriage is not allowed. And you might think an unexpected geyser popping up near your home would be a bit of a novelty, but residents of a Japanese neighborhood say it's actually a big nuisance. Here's one noisy reason why. The roaring from the new geyser is keeping people awake at night, and folks can't hang their clothes outside to dry because of the muddy water from the geyser. It appeared on the grounds of a shrine in northern Japan a couple weeks ago. Local officials said the area had been a site for natural gas exploration about 60 years ago. And while visitors are coming to check out the geyser, they're being warned not to get too close to it or light fires close by. Those are pretty cool to see in real life. I saw some in Iceland a while back. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.